A cheer went up in Walbrook today. That's where neighbors watched as the city tore down an old building in their community, something they called an eyesore. It's all part of the city's Shape Up Baltimore campaign. But as Vicki Cox reports, some fear the cleanup may never reach their backyards.
3, 2, 1, boom, demolition.
And as each brick came tumbling down, neighbors in Walbrook looked up to the future. They're thrilled that an eyesore will soon turn into new homes for Baltimore families. Then city workers, armed with brooms and good intentions, cleaned up the vacant lot here, all part of their Shape Up Baltimore campaign.
I think it's a good idea, and I hope it works, and it's nice. It's nice for the community, and if anything, we should have been out here sooner.
And that's how others feel. In fact, one lady actually pays someone to clean this city-owned lot near her.
Rose, why would you pay to clean a lot you don't even own?
Because I don't want all this trash around here. It disturbs me to see a lot of trash.
We are going to try to change that with a new tool we have in housing inspection and court enforcement, and that will be the capacity in the near future to issue citations to people who let weeds get out of hand on lots, abandoned autos, and things of that sort.
But no one touched this lot today, and every morning people wake up to what you see. Broken bottles, food wrappings, and as one lady put it, Lord knows what else. We even saw a needle in this pile on Division Street. That's why Nadine Day won't let her child near the dump.
It's not safe for no children to be playing right next to that lot, junky like that.
You called the city?
Yes, we have called the city, and they haven't been here yet.
And that's why they hope today's cleanup doesn't start and end with one lot. In West Baltimore, Vicki Cox, Channel 2 News.
Well, we called the city about that lot on Division Street. A spokesman from the housing department told us it's on the list for cleanup, but he couldn't say when. How would you like to pay $400 to $500 a month for an apartment where the plumbing is bad, the air conditioning doesn't work, and the landlord refuses to do maintenance? That's what's happening to some people in Annapolis. But as Channel 2's Brad Bell reports, the city government has said enough is enough.
The grounds of an Annapolis apartment complex were crawling with inspectors today.
Another thing we've been picking up systematically through these utility rooms is outside venting.
The target is Boston Heights, notorious as the worst development in town. But now, under a tough ordinance adopted this week, the city is cracking the whip to get code violations corrected.
And if he doesn't do it, he's charged $1,000 a day for every day the property remains in disrepair. Secondly, it would allow us to put a landlord in jail under criminal penalties. It's the strongest anti-slum landlord bill in the state of Maryland.
The law applies to all city landlords, but the first target was Boston Heights.
There are a number of buildings, apartment units that are boarded up. Backups, tenants have complained about the place is in disrepair, generally speaking.
Some progress has been made. Work crews were out cleaning up the grounds. Residents say they never saw that before.
For a couple of weeks, the place has been looking okay. Thank God for that. I've seen little kids coming out, pitching in and helping, which is good, But everything looks okay right now.
But proper repairs to the 152-unit project would cost more than $1 million. The owner, Tatish Singh, says he plans to sell the project. The city says that's fine, as long as someone makes the improvements. In Annapolis, Brad Bell, Channel 2 News.
Brad says that this is the same neighborhood where Annapolis Mayor Dennis Callahan went door to door asking for help to beat drugs. And a few weeks ago, 150 volunteers came out to pick up trash. The hope is that all the work will yield a safe, revitalized place to live. Well, it's play ball for Annapolis basketball players. That city.
Well, there have been a lot of outstanding student athletes in the 140-year history of Western High School. The latest is the subject of tonight's Prep Profile. Keith Mills has the Kelly Logan story.
In Breezy Bishop's 16 years at Western High School, some truly outstanding athletes have passed through her program, but none stands out more than 6'2" senior Kelly Logan. Even when taking a test in the back of the room, Kelly sits at the head of the class. She's 20th in a class of 400, and she spends her day taking trigonometry, geometry, and Latin.
Kelly embodies all those things that we're trying to encourage our young people to be, and she happens to be at the top of the list.
Kelly is such a superb student athlete here at Western High School that she's being offered not only athletic scholarships but academic scholarships by some of the finest institutions in the country. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, they all want Kelly to play basketball, and she will. But she also wants to study medicine.
I love working with people, and I want to go into orthopedic surgery, which means I'll have a chance to work with sports patients as well as older people and young children.
She has always had her head on straight, and she's had clear goals. She's never been affected by anything that's happened to her because she's been talented and recognized to be talented ever since she came into school. She has an excellent family background and support, which helps.
For everything that's worth getting in life, there's a sacrifice that comes with it at some point in time, and it's all worth it. And I'll be getting a good education and playing basketball, something that I like at the same time.
Western is ranked #1 in the area, and Kelly is a big reason for that. But basketball is just a part of her life, and next year she'll move on looking for new challenges. Are you looking forward to the future? You're looking to what's ahead?
Yes. Medical school will take some time, but you take it day by day.
From Western High School, Keith Mills, Channel 2 News.
Kelly could be the first player team doctor, right? Good luck to Kelly Logan.
A man trapped underwater, his friends and co-workers watching helplessly, and divers trying to get to him in time. The victim had been driving a 20-ton payloader bigger than this one, when for some unknown reason the payloader fell into the water, taking the driver with it. An eyewitness and close friend of the victim describes the horror of what he saw.
It didn't hear nothing but the motor raised a little bit and just went on overboard. But he tried to jump out.
He tried to jump out?
Yeah. By the time before he can get out good, it went on him.
If the water had been a little colder, or if the divers had been able to get to him a little sooner, there may have been a chance. But it's been more than an hour now, and barring some miracle, chances for survival are slim. With divers unable to find the victim, a heavy crane was called in to pull the 20-ton payloader from the bay floor 25 feet below. And still no sign of the victim. But the body was recovered a few minutes later, 3 hours after the loader first went underwater. The name of the victim will not be released until the next of kin are notified. In Baltimore, Randy Page, Channel 2 News.
Millions of gallons of raw sewage are pouring into a Cockeysville stream after a major pipe break in the Cockeysville area. Tonight, Baltimore County crews continue to clean up the repairs. That sewage spill began more than 24 hours ago. Channel 2's Brad Bell was the first to report the problem. He joins us now live from the scene of the break. Brad, has there been any progress?
Beverly, there has been a little bit of progress in that the work crews are now able to get down 12 feet underground to get to the pipe. The problem was that there was a BG&E power pole that was right on top of the break. That power pole with the live lines on top had to be lifted up and moved a few inches before the men could get to really digging and get down there. But the real problem remains that the sewage that normally flows through this pipe, it's being diverted into a stream. This is what it looks like about a mile down the pipeline from here. All the sewage at the Texas pumping station is being diverted onto their parking lot and into a stream. The stream flows eventually to the Loch Raven Reservoir. But even though as much as 3 million gallons may have been dumped, there should be no threat to drinking water.
No, none whatsoever. The water coming down from Loch Raven to Montebello, the treatment plant, is chlorinated when it comes in, and it's settled out, and then it goes through the rapid sand filters, and then it's chlorinated again before it leaves the plant. It's absolutely no threat to it at this time at all.
But that sewage still continues to be dumped into the stream, and the men are still pouring chlorine in along with it to treat it. That chlorine might have a bad effect on the stream as it flows through, as far as the little animals that live in there. This work is going to take a while longer. They've just now gotten to the pipe. They have to cut out a 16-foot section and replace it. It's about 3 feet around, so they have a great deal more work to do, and the sewage continues to flow.
Is that disrupting business and traffic in that area, and how long will that happen?
Well, not really. The traffic seems to be flowing. One problem they had earlier, it's next to some train tracks, and they had to wait for a train to go by. The next one comes by Thursday, so they shouldn't have that problem anymore.
Okay, thank you very much. Brad Bell reporting live. It appears residents of a West Baltimore high-rise will have to wait 3 weeks before one of the building's fire escapes will reopen. The stairwell is one of 2 fire escapes at the Murphy homes. It was closed when housing authorities discovered panels along the wall had come loose, leaving holes big enough for a child to fall through.
Yeah, the buildings are 30 years old. We had that really vicious windstorm a couple weeks ago, which is what a lot of people think triggered this.
Now today, a crane began removing aluminum panels from the outside of the building, enabling workers to get inside to begin repairs. The concern now is to keep one working fire escape open and to ease residents' fears. To do that, housing police patrols have been increased and will patrol the escape hourly.
Competitive world. You have to work hard to stay ahead.
And besides, this is exactly what Oprah was talking about when she discussed liquid
at an affordable cost. We give you the tools you need to get you where you want to go.
There's no doubt in my mind that a big part of my success is my degree from Towson State University. If you're looking to get ahead, Towson State University is the best place to start.
At international intrigue, and you have the results of what transpired during a lover's triangle in Baltimore County.
Jamie Costello joins us in the newsroom with details of how one man dies and a married couple suffers gunshot wounds. Jamie, tell us all about it.
Well, Horace and Brad, it also involves 3 immigrants from the Soviet Union. The alleged boyfriend, who police say did the shooting, is dead, while his former girlfriend and her legal husband are in the hospital. The story begins at 3614 Templar Road in Randallstown. The home of 31-year-old Zana Sushin, a naturalized U.S. citizen for the past 7 years. Shortly before midnight, gunshots at her home would ring out.
We heard some gunshots, and I said, don't go outside. And they were screaming and everything. And when we looked out the window, the car was like a burgundy Beretta had rolled up the street.
When the 5 shots rang out, neighbors in this home heard them. They happened to be paramedics. They quickly raced over to the scene, and when they went down to administer aid to the man that was shot, they looked and they said that this is the man that they thought was the lady's husband. The man shot 4 times in the driveway was in fact her husband, Igor, who just joined his wife last month from Russia. The man allegedly pulling the trigger was Bronislav Benimov, who neighbors say they always saw around this house and thought this man was her husband. Benimov lived here in this St. George's Station townhouse. Police believe Zana and Benimov were lovers.
He was real quiet. He never spoke to me. He was Russian. I never spoke to him or anything.
Did you see anybody else going inside the house, or did he live alone?
Just one younger guy. That was it.
But he kept girls. No girls at all?
No.
Kept to himself?
Yes, he did.
After the shooting, the suspect jumped into his car and fled. Baltimore County Police would spot his car on Reisterstown Road near Glendon. Here in Carroll County, Maryland State Police would join in pursuit with Baltimore County. The chase would last 24 miles, lasting just 12 minutes, with speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour. The chase would end when Officer James Hare would place his police cruiser right smack dab in the middle of Route 140 near Emmitsburg. State Police spokesman Chuck Jackson told me that both cars rolled 125 feet with the suspect trapped inside.
The trooper was joined by the other arriving troopers in attempting to administer first aid, during which time the suspect reached for a weapon which was on the floorboard beneath the driver's seat. The troopers were able to restrain him before reaching the weapon, a loaded handgun. He died moments later.
As for the couple that was shot, the husband is in critical but stable condition at shock trauma with multiple gunshot wounds. His wife is in fair condition at Sinai with a gunshot wound to the wrist. Horace, Brad?
Jamie, how did...
Luskins gives new meaning to the word superstore.
Finally, you now have a cheaper alternative. Luskins thinks you deserve the lowest price without haggling, and you deserve an electronics and appliance superstore that offers better credit, better service, and salespeople who care. The smart choice is Luskins, the cheaper alternative. We want to earn your business, so come on down to the cheapest guys in town and make us prove it.
A little-known slave cabin in Anne Arundel County is being turned into a museum.
The cabin, along with a Civil War farm building on the same property, will be restored and converted to an inn and restaurant. In tonight's Target 2 report, Annapolis Bureau Chief Lou Davis reports on the preservation effort.
A slave we know only as Jacob lived here on this Anne Arundel County farm in the late 1850s. He was purchased by William Anderson for $10. Anderson owned and farmed a 326-acre piece of property here in Annapolis Junction, just north of Fort Meade. The property is now being turned over to an historic trust, will eventually be restored and open to the public. Donna Ware is Anne Arundel County's historic site planner. She took me through the property, which was purchased by Anderson, who moved here from Harper's Ferry in 1852.
The main dwelling is made of brick, and it's in the telescope plan. That means that each section unfolds as you would in extending a telescope. The brick was manufactured here on the farm, fired, and then the slaves of William Anderson constructed the main dwelling in 1852. The chimney is what survives of a summer kitchen. That's the frame summer kitchen no longer survives, just the stone chimney. From our documentation in Anne Arundel County, this is probably one of 10 surviving slave quarters in the county. Approximately one family or 5 to 6 people probably occupied this quarter originally. It's one of 4 or 5 that stood on the property, and this one is closest to the house, so it was obviously connected with the domestic activities of grassland. And the reason we know more than what we usually know about other farms of that period is because William Anderson kept a careful journal or diary from the period of about 1852 to 1875.
The excerpts from the journal, the diary, also document the Civil War. On April 15th, Anderson wrote, "President Lincoln was assassinated last night at a theater in Washington. The assassins made their escape. Great excitement prevails." When the Civil War ended, that didn't mean freedom for the slaves here. President Lincoln only freed the slaves in the Confederate States, those that had seceded from the Union. It took an act of the Maryland legislature later to free the slaves here at Grassland and in the rest of the state. In Annapolis Junction, Lou Davis, Channel 2 News.
Slavery was widespread
by helping someone else. That's the ideal represented by a program called Youth Community Service. High school kids are out in the community and they lend a hand whenever they can. And as Brad Bell reports, they can make a difference.
This is a story of a helping hand.
Now read to yourself and then tell me something about it.
A cross-country 4th grader gets a boost in reading from one of the big kids, a senior from Northwestern High.
Because you really are having problems with attached. And it's not attached, but it's attached, okay? So I want you to carry this home with you and get your mother to re-help you with them. I wanted to get a better understanding of these younger children up here. See, I have a brother at my home, and it's very difficult understanding him. So I feel as though it would be a great opportunity for me to understand little children better.
The kids are involved in a community service program. It puts high school students, during school hours, out into other schools or even senior centers. According to City School Superintendent Richard Hunter, it's a program with a future.
Anytime you get people helping others, that's a good program. And the young people who are involved, who help the high school students, who help the younger students, will get a benefit out of this that's very important.
Hunter toured the class to declare this Youth Service Day. He read a mayor's proclamation, but these kids already have their rewards.
I do this because it's a nice experience and opportunity for like out hands-on training in a career, and it's nice working with children.
I think it's nice if I come over to cross country.
How does it help you?
It helps me to read better.
Across the state, there are about 20 schools participating in community service. And the goal eventually is to have every school have some of their kids go out into the community. At Cross Country Elementary, Brad Bell, Channel 2 News.
It appears repair work is the last thing on the mind of one developer. His plans are to demolish a building nearby residents say is historic and should be preserved. The building is the American Can Company in Canton. And right now, folks are gathering at St. Casimir Church for a hearing on this issue. With the latest on action this hour is Channel 2's Sam Ringo live from the church. Sam?
Well, Beverly, right now a coalition of community groups are marching through the streets of Canton en route here to St. Casimir's Church, where a meeting will be held this evening to discuss the proposal to develop the old American Can Company facility. Right now, a plan to develop that site calls for tearing down that building and replace it with a new shopping center made up of retail stores and offices. But opponents of the plan say the building is on the National Register of Historic Places and shouldn't be torn down. Earlier today, Horace Holmes talked with a member of the community trying to save the building.
Neighborhood. This building and other buildings on this site are worth saving.
Is the American Can building worth saving? It's been vacant for nearly a year. Now a D.C. developer wants to tear it down and build a shopping complex. Sandy Sales and Steve Bunker think it's worth saving. They're part of a coalition of community and historic preservation groups that want to recycle, not demolish the can.
Progress in Baltimore is best made by retaining its heritage. A property like Tin Deco will continue to grow in its worth because it has been used within the original building. New buildings come and go and are torn down within 20 years.
We need to see more adaptive reuse of buildings in our communities. We need to see more sensitivity on the part of developers and of the city to the history and the traditions of the people of these communities.
What is here to preserve? Mike Graziano lives right across the street from the American Can building. He worked there for 44 years. Like most of his neighbors, he's concerned about how a new development will affect his community. But Graziano feels right now this old building is just an eyesore.
Nobody asks anybody on Hudson Street what they feel about this building. The way I feel about it, and what I know about it in 44 years, and they're going to take it down.
The members of the historic preservation group say this building will not come down. They're prepared to fight long and hard and even take the issue to court to make sure that the American Can building stays up. In Canton, Horace Holmes, Channel 2 News.
They represent a disturbing trend in our society that's on the rise. Single parents without the maturity or money needed to raise a family.
Here in East Baltimore, the family unit as we know it, with children and both mother and father, has pretty much disintegrated. Today it's just people trying to survive with one parent or another. But there are parents that are trying to change all that. Parents like Doris Rote.
I didn't know what kids were about. This was all new to me. And my girlfriend said, maybe if you learn from your daughter, you might grow up.
It's been tough for Doris. Her boyfriend left her to raise 6-year-old Virginia all alone. But with the help of a neighborhood program designed to teach mothers and fathers about being parents, Doris and others are now learning how to take an active role with their children.
First thing we're going to start on is compliments. You remember?
Carmen Denarncourt says she couldn't get parents to take part in her program when it began 3 years ago. Now there's a waiting list. She says it's because single moms and dads want to learn what it takes to be a caring parent that can communicate with their children.
They learn how to give their children courage, how to teach them to be more responsible, and how to have them be more cooperative. Doris, except for a small circle of friends, is virtually alone with her daughter. So when she comes in a group like this, she can share some of the things that are bothering her with interacting with her daughter. And it's a very, very important task to bring one individual up to be an adult. And it's a long, tedious task.
Diplomas are awarded at the end of the 6-week program. Not much, but to Doris, it means the difference between raising Virginia and letting her raise herself.
I feel like there's a closeness, a bond between me and my daughter. I just hope that when she grows up, all I want her is to remember her mom was there for her.
Robin Robinson, Channel 2 News.
And if you'd like more information on the active parenting program, you can call the Greater Baltimore Medical Center, the number on your screen, 828-2132.
It's 10:15. Paramedics Kyle Garrison and Charlene Stokes are going on their 5th call of a 10-hour shift.
No, don't reach out. Don't reach out. All right. Keep your arms in. You two okay? Yeah.
A woman has an uncontrollable nosebleed. No sooner is she stabilized and at a hospital than they get another call. Medic 7 is the busiest unit in the country.
I love it. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. You're giving more. The busier you are, the more you're helping like you want to do.
That love of the job is what keeps these people going on shifts that mean call after call after call.
There's been times I've gone home with a feeling that I feel pretty good about the day because I've helped somebody out.
We've been with Medic 7 for just about 2 hours now, and already they've gone on 4 calls. This is the 5th. A young boy has fallen on a school playground and hasn't moved for 20 minutes.
Philip, do you have any pain right up in here? What about this leg right here? Can you move your toes for me?
You can imagine the stress of life on Medic 7. Death is confronted every day. Coping means counting on your partner.
Call him if I get a bad case by myself, and we'll talk about it. But most of the time we're working together, and we talk among each other, and, you know, just talk it out and laugh it off.
A woman has fallen from a wheelchair. A medic is needed. It's their 10th call, and the shift still has 3 hours to go. In Baltimore, Brad Bell, Channel 2 News.
And right now there are 16 medic crews on duty in the city. This year they'll handle 90,000 calls. A man believed to be the so-called red-eyed bandit, thought to have robbed a number of banks, is in custody of Baltimore police tonight. 38-year-old Edward Watson was arrested by the FBI this afternoon in Baltimore City and charged with robbing a Baltimore bank last week. His alleged victims say that he entered several banks while appearing to be drunk and then robbed the banks. Authorities say that he could be charged with other robberies. Two's Jamie Costello joins us live from the Towson Courthouse. And Jamie, I understand that today's session ended just a few minutes ago.
Yes, the jury has left the courthouse. We just saw the sheriff, accompanied by former Mayor Clarence Stu Burns, walk to their cars and go home here. After being defeated several times for city office, Shelton Stewart won in the last citywide election in 1987 and becomes the Baltimore City Sheriff. But ever since being sworn in, he has been investigated by the state prosecutor's office. Allegations were made that Baltimore's first elected sheriff didn't report all the fundraising dollars during his campaign, which is an election law violation. In court, Jim Cabezas from the state's prosecutor's office stated that Stewart gave him $1,000 in order for the case to be dismissed. Testimony today stated the reason that Stewart was interested in dropping the election law violation was because of aspirations to become mayor one day. In fact, former Mayor Clarence Stu Burns took the stand as a character witness for the defense. Burns said the sheriff was a good man, great character, and was also his distant cousin. The state played audio and videotapes of a meeting in a car on Security Boulevard in March of 1988, where Stewart is accused of passing over 7 $100 bills and 6 50s. When Stewart took the stand, he talked of a disgruntled employee by the name of George Cunningham, who organized all the meetings and who Stewart charges passed the money over and not the sheriff. Now, through cross-examination, Stewart said that he was coerced and set up by the state in order to make the bribe. But when asked if he felt that the dollar signs could alleviate those election law violations, the sheriff responded with yes. And Beverly, this case could go to the jury, and it is a 9-woman, 4-man jury as early as tomorrow afternoon. So we'll keep you posted.
Who is supposed to go on the stand tomorrow? Any other testimony expected?
Well, as I understand it, just a few more character witnesses. Clarence Stu Burns was one today. Tom Waxter, the former city councilman, was another. And there's going to be more tomorrow. Other than that, I don't think anybody else is going to take the stand. This is nearly over.
Okay, Jamie Costello reporting live. Thank you very much. Topping our news, the bribery and campaign fraud trial of Baltimore Sheriff Sheldon Stewart. The jury got the case shortly before noon and is still deliberating. Channel 2's Randy Page is in Towson at the courthouse, where he's been able to obtain the videotape the prosecution used, showing what they say is Stewart bribing a state investigator looking into election law violations by the sheriff. Randy, what's the latest?
Well, Beverly, by my arithmetic, that means about 5.5 hours we've been waiting, still no verdict.
You know, in the trial, probably the most damaging evidence against Baltimore City Sheriff Sheldon Stewart are his own words, secretly recorded on audio and videotape by investigators trying to prove the bribery and obstruction of justice charges that are against him. We've received a copy of that videotape, and we'll take a look at 2 meetings at the McDonald's in Woodlawn between Stewart and the chief investigator for the state prosecutor's office. In the first meeting, it's when the
That would be good. How do you want to work that out? Well, I can't get it right away. It's going to have to take some time. Yeah. So the deal would be is you give me $2,000. Right. I will talk to Steve into dropping the case. Okay. And the only thing we got to agree upon is when the money's going to be paid. Okay. First, you really got to fast, didn't you?
Yeah, I said that I would have to borrow it right away. That's what I did.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 2, 9, 10,000. Great.
Stewart says that this tape has been doctored, that he's been set up, that he's been entrapped. It's up to the jury to decide. Beverly, if he's convicted, he could face up to 15 years and $15,000 in fines.
Was there any rebuttal testimony to this tape?
A lot of character witnesses paraded through, and Stewart himself took the stand, Beverly, and said that he had been set up and that the tape had been doctored. So really, it is up, the jury is going to have to decide whether or not he has in fact been entrapped, or whether or not he is guilty of bribery. And by the way, the judge said that he plans to allow the jury to deliberate into the wee hours of the morning. So we're going to be hanging around here waiting to see, and we'll have the latest for you tonight at 11.
A 7-week-old Baltimore boy is spending the night in a foster home. His parents are behind bars, charged with trying to sell him. A 35-year-old Gail Duty and her 35-year-old husband Patrick Panuti were arrested last night in Glen Burnie. Police say that they tried to sell their son Patrick to undercover police officers for $3,500 and 3 ounces of uncut cocaine. The couple's other 4 children are staying with relatives pending a decision by juvenile court. The couple may come up for a bail review Friday. In the meantime, police are investigating reports the couple sold another child for $5,000. Channel 2 News has learned that a toll facilities police officer has been charged with sexually abusing 6 boys in South Baltimore. 31-year-old Joseph Anthony Earnshaw of South Hanover Street was arrested last month after the boys, ages 8 to 14, told police they had been sexually abused. These incidents allegedly took place in November of 1987 at Earnshaw's home and at the South Baltimore Youth Center, where Earnshaw worked as a part-time staff member. Other incidents were reported at Southern High during a Wednesday night swimming program sponsored by Southwestern District Police. Gloria Earnshaw, the officer's wife, told Channel 2's Joan Gartland her husband is innocent. Officer Earnshaw is being held at the city jail on $100,000 bail. He's also been suspended from work without pay. An arraignment is scheduled for December 6th. Police have seized $50,000 worth of heroin and cocaine in a drug bust at a northeast Baltimore home. In addition to the 98 bags of heroin and 598 bags of cocaine, police also found more than $4,000 in cash in the house. No arrests were made, but police are looking for an 18-year-old man. Today's bust is the result of a 6-month investigation. Anyone with information is asked to call 685-DRUG. That's 685-DRUG. Several Annapolis families are looking for new homes tonight. Housing Authority officials served them with eviction notices for alleged drug trafficking. As Channel 2's Lou Davis reports, it's part of a move to rid the projects of drug dealers.
Come and tell me, bro. You want me, Jody? You embarrass me, like, don't do that. See, now you want to be smart. See why violence comes over here, Cole? Because you got ignorant cameramen like you.
The projects are tough places. Officials say the drug problem has turned the subsidized housing units into an open market. The new director of the Housing Authority is Roger Pip Moyer. He was mayor of Annapolis when these buildings were constructed.
We're not going to play a Simon Legree, of course. And if a person is innocent of it who's on that lease, we're going to protect them. But if they've become a nuisance in this area, and there's documented evidence that's been an ongoing activity, then out they go.
Public housing is not a right, it's a privilege. And along with that privilege comes responsibilities. And that responsibility means peace and harmony within the neighborhood, not selling drugs.
But Annapolis Councilman Carl Snowden has some problems with the new policy.
There is some anxiety, some concern that some of the people may be unfortunate victims or casualties of this new battle on drugs, this war on drugs. We're not going to have a police state in public housing development simply because we want to try to get rid of drug dealers. We know that can't work.
As for the people who live in the projects, the feelings are mixed.
I think it's a good idea.
You do?
You know, I don't want to live in it either, you know.
Like I said, they might as well legalize because it's never going to stop.
Police have increased their patrols in the projects with foot patrols and undercover units called the Delta Force. That and the eviction notices have increased tensions. The eviction notices went out in yesterday's mail. They'll be received by the residents sometime this weekend. They have 30 days to appeal the eviction, but if not, they have to be out of their apartments by January 3rd. In Eastport, Lou Davis, Channel 2 News.
I have to get my academics together and look forward to college and everything, try to get a degree, degrees first, and football won't be there forever.
Whether it's chemistry class or the poly football field, Chris Brooks has his priorities in order. At 6'9", 300 pounds, he's a tremendous force for Coach Augie Weibel and a college recruiter's dream.
He has improved tremendously. He's worked hard, and he's a student of the game. He knows his assignments, and he knows what to expect from his opponent.
More than 50 college recruiters have been in contact with Chris, but for the time being, they're going to have to wait for a decision. Right now, Chris is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that's to beat City on Thanksgiving Day and avenge last year's loss.
You do remember last year?
I do remember last year because we played hard. We played very hard. And
hard work and dedication have transformed Chris from just a big kid into a strong, quick, intimidating football player.
While I'm running in practice, I try my best to run as hard as I can to prepare for college, because college is much harder. I know that college is much harder than what this is. This is just the first step.
But first things first, and that's a rematch with City.
If you could write the perfect script, okay, for the City Poly game next Thursday, what would it be?
Poly dominates City.
Any score?
50-0.
From Poly, Keith Mills, Channel 2 News.
Baltimore State Delegate Nathaniel Oakes went on trial today. Oakes is charged with stealing $13,000. Officials believe Oakes was reimbursed for the same expenses from both the state legislature and his campaign fund. If convicted, Oakes could lose his seat in the House of Delegates. The trial is expected to last about a week. Chris Bell was beaten on Monday by 10 to 15 students on his way home from school. Now, school officials say that the problem began on Friday when some black students got into a confrontation with two white students in front of the school. Then Monday, Bell was beaten a few blocks from the school. School officials say they don't think the young victim was involved in Friday's confrontation. Students and school officials say the boy was probably beaten because he was alone at the time that he was found on Cross Street and that he is white. School officials are characterizing this as a racially motivated beating, but they claim there is no racial tension in the school.
There's no racial tension here. There was perhaps a racial incident, but there is no racial tension.
We've never had a racial problem up here. It's just no matter where you go, there's bad people in any school, and it's not blacks or whites. There's bad people on both sides.
7 students have been arrested and charged with assault with intent to commit murder. More arrests are expected. At Howard Heights School in Columbia.
Time for lunch at Cherry Hill Junior High. And as always, the principal keeps a close watch on the army of excited youngsters who are finally free from the classroom. Violence hasn't touched this school, but still a security officer stands guard, on the alert for guns and other smuggled weapons. It unnerves some students.
I get scared. I'd be scared and petrified.
Tonight, a task force goes public with its recommendations for making class safer. They're likely to include more school police officers, handheld metal detector scanners, school uniforms, Big Brother, Big Sister programs, and a camera monitoring system. I tested some of those ideas on the man who leads a group of city principals.
Hire additional security officers.
It's a good recommendation. There is a critical need to increase the size of the school police force.
School uniforms.
there isn't anything wrong with school uniforms. It's just that it's a mistake to deal with what children wear on their bodies and not deal with the attitudes they bring in their minds.
And that's often shaped by the parents of students who also need to get involved. For example, say one of these students comes to school late. They don't have a note from their mother. They say their mother was sleeping. That worries the principal, who says, how do we know that student didn't sneak a gun or knife out of the house? This book bag was searched today after a student got caught bringing it into the cafeteria. They're supposed to be kept in lockers, but sometimes the rules aren't obeyed. And that's why some students are afraid their schools are starting to resemble prisons. In South Baltimore, Vicki Cox, Channel 2 News.
Channel 2's Mary Beth Marsden reports.
Mayor Kurt Schmoke walked the crowded hallways for the first time since the population explosion at Southwestern High School.
This is American Education Week, and I'll be visiting a number of schools, but I wanted to come over here, you know, because of the unique situation that developed here of having two high schools together.
It was also a good way to see and hear how students are doing, and to find out how they feel about the safe school recommendations announced at last night's school board meeting, one in particular.
One of the things that they talked about was possibility of a dress code.
It's a sorry idea. Uniforms don't, it's not the uniforms, it's the people. They're not going to help anything. This is going to make people madder. People talking about dropping out of school if they have to wear uniforms.
If they gave you a choice of a dress code, what do you think would work?
Anything besides plaid.
By 9 o'clock, the mayor stopped by several classes, talked with administrators and teachers. But he didn't leave before 9:30. He wanted to greet the Walbrook students. A few outbreaks of violence here recently have been blamed in part on crowded conditions, but many students seem to be adjusting.
I thought it would be worse, but it's very nice.
Still, security was thorough this morning. Students without identification were not immediately allowed in.
I don't have an ID, and if you don't have an ID, they take your names down and your classroom number and, try to get you a temporary ID card at the moment.
The mayor said before he left that Walbrook students may be able to return to their school asbestos-free, possibly as early as January of 1990. In Southwest Baltimore, Mary Beth Marsden, Channel 2 News.
Region 3. Two Baltimore men pleaded guilty to harassing a black family who moved into their neighborhood. Gary Merriman and Joseph Chakothy admitted throwing a brick and a rock through the windows of the home owned by Eric and Carolyn Boyce Bay. Now, according to a court document, they did it because they didn't want blacks living in their predominantly white neighborhood. Eric Boyce Bay says that he is Moorish American and doesn't consider himself black. Merriman and Chakothy face up to a year in jail and a $100,000 fine. They will be sentenced in March.
Hi, I'm Kim Fields. Teen pregnancy is a problem that you can do something about. Enjoy your teen years. Wait until you're ready.
This is Channel 2 News at 6. With Beverly Burke, meteorologist Ken Phillips, sports with Scott Garceau, and Tony's Travels with Tony Pagnotti. This is Channel 2 News.
Tragedy strikes a West Baltimore family. Good evening, I'm Beverly Burke. 5-year-old Horace Miller III died of smoke inhalation after being pulled from a burning row house. Firefighters were called to 527 North Fulton Avenue shortly after 3 o'clock this afternoon. They pulled the unconscious boy from the burning building. He was rushed to University Hospital, where he died a short time later. 6 people were in this house when the fire broke out, 4 of them children. There's still no word on how the fire started or how much damage it caused. Fire investigators remain on the scene. Violence in a classroom is a problem that has touched Baltimore ever since the school year began. And tomorrow, a familiar face holds a town meeting on that topic. Oprah Winfrey begins her show at Southwestern High School, and as Channel 2's Vicki Cox reports, students, teachers, parents will offer opinions on how to keep our schools safe.
So you can see the blood a little bit.
A student recovers from a recent gunshot wound inside Southwestern High School, already the scene of another shooting and stabbing on school grounds. And since the school year began, there have been about a dozen violent incidents in Baltimore, the latest happening on Thanksgiving Day when shots were fired outside the City Poly football game. Tomorrow, Baltimore's problems get a national hearing when the Oprah Winfrey Show comes to Southwestern High School.
And what's now a high school gymnasium becomes a television studio tomorrow. As you can see, they're already setting up behind me. The cameras are in place, and all that's needed to fill the seats are members of the Baltimore community. And of course, Oprah.
One of the reasons why we are here is because I am personally concerned about the education of young people.
Today, Oprah arrived in Baltimore and fielded questions about her show's topic.
And we, many times, are thrown in with the other guys and accused of being sensational. But the truth of the matter is that my staff is, concerned about raising the consciousness of people in this country.
And some students echoed her thoughts on finding solutions instead of just harping on problems.
We have to look at the cause of the problem. And once we identify it, if we look at the cause, then I think that we can solve the problem a lot better by attacking the cause and not just dealing with the effect.
The cause is coming from the community. Kids are at our schools to learn, but these problems that they're bringing with them from the community are in effect exploding in our schools.
Oprah says many cities with worse school problems turned her show down. So she saluted Baltimore for at least admitting that there needs to be an open dialogue and that some of their students need to be separated from handguns. Downtown, Vicki Cox, Channel 2 News.
And Oprah's Baltimore show airs at its usual time at 4 o'clock right here on Channel 2.